Hi, today we're going to burp a fermenter with CO2 just to resuspend some of the dry hop matter that's in it. To do this, we're going to use the little pony CO2 tank that I have here. I set the regulator to about 10 psi, and we're also going to use this special little rig that I put together yesterday. The dump valve on the fermenter is a 3/4 inch valve. So we've got a 3/4 to 1/2 inch bushing reducer, and then in that we've got a 1/2 inch to 1/4 flare fitting that the CO2 is going to go in. So let's go see how this works. So here's the fermenter, and it's sitting in a converted freezer, my fermentation control temperature. And here's Ruby, the trustful brew dog. Ruby. Yes, she's such an enthusiastic brew dog. And I just cover the valve with some sanitized, Ruby, stay away from that, sanitized aluminum foil while I'm not using it, and just to keep it clean, because I burp about once a day. So voila, that's all attached. Now I'm going to spray this ball joint just to make sure that as it opens and closes, I want everything sanitized there. I can dump that sanitizer. And I'll let that sit for a minute, just so that I get some contact time. And now I'm going to pull this thing out of the sanitizer, and I'm just going to run the CO2 a little bit. I really can't rest this camera. I'm going to sort of loosely position this in here. Just want to get one thread started. There we go. Now let me see what happens if I run up some CO2. This is kind of what I wanted. You can hear that it's running out here. I just want to run some CO2 in there. I want to flush the line and flush that cavity with CO2. And now, as I tighten this up, I think it'll stop leaking. Oh yeah, there we go. So now that's stopped leaking CO2, and all the line and the cavity is flush with CO2. Now comes the fun part. I'm going to elevate this up a little bit so that I have a loop in it, just in case I do get some beer that leaks out. But generally you don't see any beer in the line, but you do get a little splash inside here. So here we go. We're just going to flush it with CO2. You hear that bubbling? That's CO2 bubbling up on the top, and it's also CO2 bubbling out of the blow-off, because we've got a blow-off tube attached to the top of the fermenter. And that, my friends, a couple of times a day, just to get some CO2 bubbling up through the fermenter. You just burp it a couple of times a day, and it resuspends the hops that you have probably sitting at the bottom of the fermenter. That's all for today. Here I do want to show this being taken off, because you can see, if you look at the threads, there is definitely some beer that you know, kind of bubbled out of that, bubbled out of there a little bit, not that much. No, I guess that's really just threads being stripped of the Teflon tape. Otherwise, you know, that ball joint looks pretty clean. It doesn't look like there was any beer that leaked. So we managed to pop some CO2 in there without leaking any beer back. Okay, that's all.